Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, 10 suspects standing trial, including the notorious Henry Chibueze, also known as Vampire, escaped from the court premises in Owerri, the Imo State capital, after gunmen stormed the court. Governor Rochas Okorocha puts a 5 billion naira bounty on Vampire, says his escape poses serious security risks to the state. Nigerian Customs hands over 2 seized helicopters to the Air Force for failing to comply with necessary import requirements. And US President Donald Trump and British Prime Minister Theresa May reaffirmed their commitment to the NATO alliance after White House talks.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's interbank lending rate lowers to 5% following increased liquidity in the money market. In sports news tonight, Rafael Nadal set up a dream Australian Open final against Roger Federer with an epic semi-final win over Grigor Dimitrov.
And from Abuja, I am Ivy Clem. Supreme Court grants the All Progressives Alliance governorship candidate in Abia State, Alex Oti, leave to join the suit challenging Governor Okeze Ikpeazu's election. We begin tonight in Imo State, where suspected kidnapper Henry Chibueze is currently on the run after escaping from the premises of an Imo State High Court in Owerri, the state capital, this morning. According to the spokesperson of Nigerian prisons in the state, Maduba James, the suspect escaped following a heavy shootout between a group of gunmen and security operatives as the suspected criminal was being conveyed to the court. 8 other inmates were later said to have also escaped. Eyewitnesses say the gunmen, numbering over 6, found their way into the court premises shortly after about 50 inmates were conveyed to the court for hearing of their various suits.
This was in July 2015 when notorious criminal and alleged trans-border kidnapper Henry Chibueze was arrested and paraded before the Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha by men of the Department of State Security Service, Imo Command.
Alias Vampire.
28-year-old Henry Chibueze, also known as Vampire, a native of Nwangele, local government area of Imo State, was arrested alongside his partner and personal native doctor in 2015. The DSS boss in Imo State, Francis Ejiofor, says the suspect was trailed to Ohafia in Abia State, where he was receiving treatment following gunshot wounds he sustained during a gun duel with men of the service. Since the arrest, Henry Chibueze has been remanded in the Imo State prisons and appears in court for hearing in his case. His appearance in court on Friday, 27th January 2017, has a twist. Pandemonium breaks out as some unknown gunmen, heavily armed, stormed the court premises, shooting sporadically and successfully whisked away Henry Ngwabweze. 6 people sustained critical injuries in the process.
What we're hearing is everybody should lie down, but I believe they succeeded carrying their victim out from the place. But the shooting will last for 10 minutes.
Confirming the incidents to newsmen, the public relations officer of the Nigerian Prison Service, Imo State Command, Maduba James, says the suspect is at large, but assures that security operatives are on his trail.
We were told that some people armed were already in the court. But our people thought that they were SSS people, So after distributing these people to go to their various courts, they opened fire on our men and even some inmates. So as at now, the picture looks sketchy. But I know that about 5 people were wounded, which we are sure of now. And the controller has directed that they be taken to hospital. I think he is the main person why they had to strike by this particular hour of the day.
Who? Tell us the name of
They call him Vampire, but I don't know his real name. But for now, he's at large.
The news of Vampire's disappearance has created palpable fear among residents of the state, as he's considered a high-profile kidnap criminal.
Meanwhile, the Imo State Governor, Rochas Okorocha, has promised the sum of 5 million naira to anyone with useful information concerning the whereabouts of the escaped suspected criminal, Henry Chibueze. The governor announced this after an emergency meeting with security chiefs at Government House, Owerri. He condemned the incident, saying the disappearance of Henry Chibueze, also known as Vampire, from prison custody poses a security threat to society.
Any worries? Because Imo has been known to be a safe haven for the past few years, and we're ensure that it's brought to book. It is obvious that we have serious issues with the prison officials, and everything seems to point towards the prison as having been the place where this whole thing was nurtured before execution. So I've also directed that the CP and SSS directors should look inwards now and make sure we fish out the cop.
Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha. 2 Bell helicopters recently seized by the Nigerian Customs Service have been handed over to the Nigerian Air Force in Lagos. Speaking after the handing over at the Mirza Mohammed International Airport, the Deputy Comptroller General of Customs, Dan Ugo, alleged that the importers of the helicopters failed to comply with the necessary import requirements. The representative of the Air Force, Air Commodore Hyacinth Eze, explained that the helicopters will assist in the fight against insurgency in the northeast.
It all started in 2016 when this cargo was brought into the country following an order placed for it by persons yet to be identified. An unusual consignment it appeared to be upon its arrival at the Muritala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, prompting its detention at the Sakol shed pending the fulfillment of all legal importation requirements. When examined, the cargo was found to contain 2 Bell helicopters and their accessories. Gathered at the headquarters of the Airport Command of the Customs Office are these senior officers of the military and paramilitary agencies. They are here to witness the handing over of the seized helicopters to the Nigerian Air Force.
The consignment was found to contain 2 civil models 412 EP Bell helicopters, serial numbers 36608 and 36606. respectively, in standard configuration, and 23 packages said to contain their accessories, weighing 11,475 kilograms.
But this may not be the end of the story, as the Deputy Comptroller General of Customs in charge of strategic research and policy, Dan Ugo, insists that those behind the import will face justice.
Nobody has come forward since we decided to do this. And so for us, the investigation is ongoing, but the law must take its course, because by the time we pick them up, a process can take place. They can still be taken to court, and evidence of condemnation from court can be used without necessarily having this as the exhibit.
As you know, no matter how well trained you are, if you do not have the requisite equipment, you will not be able to perform. So with this aircraft being added to our fleet, it is certainly going to help us to enhance our discharge of our responsibilities.
The Bell 412 Enhanced Performance Helicopter is a product of an American aerospace manufacturer which deals in both military rotorcraft and commercial helicopters. According to the Nigerian Air Force, the 2 helicopters are of armored plating built largely for the military and could be configured to accommodate up to 14 passengers.
Staying with security matters, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, says the military is close to nipping in the bud cases of cattle rustling, armed banditry and other forms of crimes and criminality. The Chief of Army Staff added that the fight against insurgency and insecurity, especially terrorism, has not been an easy one. However, the military is committed because it is only when the nation is secure that it can develop.
It is not yet over. We are still working in other areas, including the Northeast. But we are very close to stabilizing the areas, especially the herdsmen farmers clash, the issue of cattle rustling, armed banditry, some of the areas that we are also tackling in conjunction with other security agencies across the country. This is the kind of support we require from the public, from Nigerians, and indeed from the international organizations and other friendly countries to appreciate what we are doing, so that we will put in our best, knowing fully well that we are being watched and are being appreciated.
In other news, the World Food Programme has announced plans to scale up food assistance across Borno and Yobe states from 1 million persons to 1.3 million beneficiaries monthly. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the executive director of the WFP, Catherine Cousin, said the program aims to reach 1.8 million persons who urgently need food assistance in the Northeast. She also announced plans by the program to provide cash assistance to internally displaced persons to enable them purchase their own foodstuff.
On the 7th of November 2016, the World Food Programme launched a special operation to support the federal government in addressing humanitarian challenges in the Northeast. At a news conference in Abuja, the executive director of the program gives an update of the activities so far.
We are flying into those challenging and inaccessible areas by helicopter with partners like UNICEF, and then flying back out again. We can't stay overnight, but we are using extraordinary means to ensure that the insecurity in these newly liberated areas doesn't limit our ability to provide the support that is required to this population.
According to statistics from the World Food Programme, over 1.7 million people are displaced in the Northeast, 4.4 million suffer food insecurity, while 1.8 million people urgently need food assistance. It is for this reason that the United Nations Resident Humanitarian Coordinator for Nigeria calls for the intervention of government agencies in addressing secondary displacement of internally displaced persons in the Northeast.
This is increasing their vulnerability because access to these liberated areas are still limited. So we still have a lot of work to do, and the government, especially the Presidential Committee for Northeast Initiative, is urgently required to provide basic early recovery assistance for these people that are returning.
The initial project duration of 6 months from November the 1st, 2016 to April the 30th this year has now been extended to the 31st of December this year. This, according to the executive director of the program, will enable them meet their monthly target of providing food assistance to at least 1.3 million people on a monthly basis.
In part two, after the break, Adamawa NYSC orientation camp reopens 4 years after it was closed due to activities of Boko Haram insurgents. Do join us again.